you are new here, my name is Maggie. I am a fourth year doctoral student and I really love reading. And now that it's summer, I know that some students don't have access to the libraries that they did during the academic year. So today we are going to be reading Horton Hears a Who by Dr. Seuss. Let's get started. On the 15th of May, in the jungle of noon, in the heat of the day, in the cool of the pool, he was splashing, enjoying the jungle's great joys, when Horton the elephant heard a small noise. So Horton stopped splashing. He looked toward the sound. That's funny, he thought. There's no one around. Then he heard it again, just very faint yelp, as if some tiny person were calling for help. I'll help you, said Horton. But who are you? Where? He looked and looked. He could see nothing there, but a small speck of dust blowing past in the air. I say, murmured Horton, I've never heard tell of a speck of dust that was able to yell. So you know what I think? Why, I think there must be someone on top of that small speck of dust. Some sort of creature of very small size, too small to be seen by an elephant's eyes. Some poor little person who's shaking with fear that he'll blow in the pool. He has no way to steer. I'll have to save him, because after all, a person's a person, no matter how small. So gently and using the greatest of care, the elephant stretched his great trunk through the air, and he lifted the dust speck and carried it over and placed it down, safe, on top of a soft clover. Humph! Humph! A voice. 'Twas a sour kangaroo, and a young kangaroo in her pouch said, humph, too. Why, that speck is as small as the head of a pin, and a person on that? Why, there's never been. Believe me, said Horton, I tell you sincerely, my ears are quite keen, and I heard him quite clearly. I know there's a person down there, and, what's more, quite likely there's two, even three, even four. Quite likely a family, for all that we know. A family with children just starting to grow. So please, said Horton, as a favor to me, do not try to disturb them. Just let them be. I think you're a fool, laughed the kangaroo. And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, me too. You're the biggest blame fool in the jungle of new. The kangaroos plunged in the cool of the pool. What terrible splashing, the elephant frowned. I can't let my small persons get drowned. I've got to protect them. I'm bigger than they. So he plucked up the clover and hustled away. Through the high jungle tree tops, and the news quickly spread. He talks to a dust speck. He's out of his head. Just look at him walk with that speck on a flower. And Horton walked, worrying, for almost an hour. Should I put the speck down? Horton thought with alarm. If I do, these persons may come to great harm. I can't put it down, and I won't, after all. A person's a person, no matter how small. Horton stopped walking. A speck voice was talking. The voice was so faint he could barely hear it. "Speak up, please," said Horton. He put his ear near it. "My friend," came a voice, "you're a very fine friend. You've helped us folks on the dust speck to no end. You've saved all our houses, our ceilings, our floors. You've saved all of our churches and grocery stores." "You mean," Horton gasped, "you have buildings there too?" "Oh yes," piped the voice, "we certainly do." "I know," called the voice, "I'm too small to be seen, but I'm mayor of this town that is friendly and clean. Our buildings, to you, would seem terribly small, but to us, who aren't big, they're wonderfully tall. My town is called Whoville, and for I am the Who, and we Whos are thankful and grateful to you." And Horton called back to the mayor of the town, "You're safe now, don't worry, I won't let you down." But just as he spoke to the mayor of the speck, 3 big jungle monkeys climbed on Horton's neck. The Wickersham brothers came shouting, "What rot! This elephant talking to Whos who are not? There aren't any Whos, they don't have a mayor, and we're going to stop this nonsense. So there." They snatched Horton's clover. They carried it off to the black-bottomed eagle named Vladikoff, a mighty strong eagle of a very swift wing. And they said, "Will you kindly get rid of this thing?" And before the poor elephant could even speak, the eagle flew off with a flower in his beak. All the late afternoon and far into the night, the black-bottomed bird flapped his wings in fast flight, while Horton chased after with groans over stones that tattered his toenails and battered his bones, and begged, "Please don't harm all my little folks who have as much right to live as us big folks do." But far, far beyond him, that eagle kept flapping, and over his shoulder called back, "Quit your yapping. I'm flying the night through. I'm a bird. I don't mind. I'll hide this tomorrow. Well, you'll never find it." And at 6:56 the next morning he did. It sure was terrible, the place that he hid it. He let that small clover drop somewhere inside of a great patch of clovers 100 miles wide. "Find that," sneered the bird, "but I think you will fail." And then he left with a flip of his black-bottomed tail. "I'll find it," cried Horton. "I'll find it or bust. I shall find my friends on that small speck of dust." And clover by clover with care, he picked up and searched them and called, "Are you there?" But clover by clover he found that the one he sought was not to be found. And by noon poor old Horton was dead than alive. He picked, he searched, he piled up 9,005. Then, on through the afternoon, hour after hour, till he found them at last, on the 3 millionth flower. "My friends," cried the elephant, do tell me, Are you safe? Are you sound? Are you whole? Are you well? From down on the speck came the voice of the mayor. We've really had trouble, much more than our share. When the black-bottomed birdie let us go and we dropped, we landed so hard that our clocks all stopped. Our teapots are broken, our rocking chairs smashed, our bicycle tires all blew up when we crashed. So Horton, please, pleaded the voice of the mayor, will you stick by the Who's while we're making our repairs? Of course, answered Horton. Of course I'll stick. I'll stick by small folks through thick and thin. Humph, humphed a voice. For almost 2 days, you've run wild and insisted on chatting with persons who've never existed. Such carryings on in our peaceful jungle, that's quite enough of your bellowing bungle. And I'm here to state, snapped the big kangaroo, that your silly nonsensical game is all through. And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, me too. With the help of the Wickersham brothers and dozens of Wickersham uncles and Wickersham cousins and the Wickersham in-laws whose help I've engaged, you're going to be roped and you're going to be caged. And as for your dust speck, that we shall boil in a hot steaming kettle of bezel nut oil. Boil it, gasped Horton. Oh, that you can't do. It's full of persons. I'll prove it to you. Mr. Mayor, Horton called. Mr. Mayor, you've got to prove now that you really are there. So call a big meeting, get everyone out. Make every who holler, make every who shout, make every who scream. If you don't, every who is going to end up in the buzzle nut stew. And down on the dust speck, the scared little mayor, quick, called a big meeting in Whoville's town square. And his people cried loudly, they cried out in fear, we're here, we're here, we're here, we're here. The elephant smiled. That was clear as a bell. You kangaroos surely heard that very well. All I heard, snapped the big kangaroo, was the breeze and a faint sound of wind through the far distant trees. I heard no small noises, and neither did you. And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, me too. Grab him, they shouted. The cage and the big dope. The lasso his stomach with 10 miles of rope. Tie the knots tight so he'll never shake loose. Then dump that dumb speck in the buzzle nut juice. Horton fought back with great vigor and vim, but the Wickersham gang was too many for him. They beat him, they mauled him, they started to haul him into his cage, but he managed to call to the mayor, don't give up, I believe in you all. A person's a person, no matter how small, and you very small persons will not have to die if you make yourselves heard, so come on now, and try. The mayor grabbed a tom-tom, he started to smack it, and all over Whoville they whooped up a racket. They rattled tin kettles, they beat on brass pans, on garbage pail tops and old cranberry cans. They blew on kazoos, they blasted great toots, on clarinets, on oomphas, and flutes. Great gusts of loud racket rang high through the air. They rattled and shook the whole sky, and the mayor called up through the howling, mad hullabaloo, "Hey, Horton, how's this? Our sound, is it coming through?" And Horton called back, "I can hear you just fine, but the kangaroo's ears aren't quite as strong as mine, and they don't hear a thing. Are you sure all your boys are doing their best? Are they all making noise? Are you sure every Who down in Whoville is working? Quick, look through the town. Is there anyone shrinking?" Through the town rushed the mayor, from the west to the east, but everyone seemed to be doing his best. Everyone seemed to be yapping and yipping. Everyone seemed to be beeping or blipping. And it still wasn't enough. All this ruckus and roar, he had to find someone to help him make more. He raced through each building, he searched floor to floor. And just as he felt as if he was getting nowhere and almost about to give up in despair, he suddenly burst through the door, and that mayor discovered one shrinker, quiet hidden away in the Fairfax apartment 12J. A very small shrinker named Jojo was just standing and bouncing a yo-yo. Not making a sound, not a yip, not a chirp, and the mayor rushed inside and grabbed that young twerp. And he climbed with the lad up the Ethelberg Tower. "This," cried the mayor, "is your town's darkest hour. The time for all who have blood that is red, to come to the aid of their country," he said. "We've got to make noise in the greatest amounts. So open your mouth, lad, and every voice counts." Thus he spoke as he climbed, and when they got to the top, the lad cleared his voice and shouted out, "Yop!" And that yop, that one small extra yop, put it over. Finally, at last, from the speck on the clover, their voices were heard. They rang out clean and clear. The elephant smiled. "Do you see what I mean? They've proved they are persons, no matter how small, and their whole world was saved by the smallest of all." "How true, yes, how true," said the big kangaroo. "And from now on, you know what I'm planning to do? From now on, I'm going to protect them, with you." And the young kangaroo, in her mother's pouch, said, "Me too. From sun in the summer, from rain in its fallish, I'm going to protect them, no matter how smallish." Well, thank you so much for joining me to read Horton Hears a Who, and we'll be reading another book shortly. See you in the next one.